it's kind of magic to me the way that acquaintanceships can turn into friendships, because those things feel very different. And sometimes you have an acquaintance relationship that you're like, this could only ever be acquaintance. Maybe it'll just be acquaintance. Let it be acquaintance for a year or 2 years or 3 years. And then boom, one day you wake up and it's a fucking friendship.
Hi, sweeties. This is Not For Everyone, and I am your host, Abi, the editor. And I'm here with my darling little angel baby, Caroline.
Oh, that was really sweet. Welcome back, guys. This is a hater hour, which really just means that Jess is on vacation, I think. So it's me and whatever I choose to do. And what I choose to do is to bring on the one, the only, the prince.
Mm-hmm.
Abi.
The prince.
The prince.
Yeah, do we need to acknowledge the name Prince?
Yeah.
Right off the bat?
I asked people to write in with questions they wanted Prince Abi to answer, and one of the, honestly, the thing they're most curious about is why you're Prince. Why you're called Prince.
Yeah, so this is a long and complicated story.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's because I hail from the Isle of Farmington, nestled in the valley of the Wasatch Mountains.
What?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Where I was a middle child. A girl middle child.
Is this a real story? I thought
this is a real story.
I thought I came up with Prince.
I'm just kidding. I'm just saying my origin story.
You see how easy it is to gaslight me?
Yeah.
Wow. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, people in my small town of Farmington named me Prince.
Okay, so to be clear, that's not where you're from, right?
I am from Farmington.
Oh, okay.
Farmington, Utah. No, Caroline just called me Prince one day. Was it in audio? Was it in text?
I think it was probably over text. I call a lot of people princess, and I was gonna call you princess, but I was like, there's something about that that's not right. I feel like you're more, I feel like you are someone's son. I'm not saying you're my son, but I do feel like you're more of a prince. Yeah, it just feels right to me. My nicknames for people they're just a feeling. There's not that much more to them. But I will say, because I was thinking about this question when people wrote in about it, and unrelated to calling Abi Prince Abigail, Jess and I refer to each other as brother kings. And
yeah, I feel like you haven't done that for a while, though.
We just do it privately sometimes.
Yeah, I understand.
In private text.
Yeah, sorry,
Kings.
my bad.
That's okay.
Oh gosh, you guys have a chat without me.
So do you and I. But I think it worked out really, I say that's a little bit of kismet. Is like we've got the kings, we have Prince. I saw Jess on Instagram just named our three-way chat the monarchy, and that feels really sweet.
I think it's funny because I was thinking about the nickname Prince, and I was also thinking about how, because I'm a freelancer, I have multiple bosses, but then I was also like, sometimes I refer to my bosses as my clients.
Yeah, that is a weird dynamic. It's like in a way, you're the freelancer is the boss. You should be kind of like the boss
like
running
I should
your
be
company.
King.
You are king, but then also there's a weird. No, I think that's
but
like.
But then I also like have to do what you guys prefer, and so it's like I'm taking direction. I can't just be like, no.
I think it's a really weird balance with freelancing, because you are the CEO of your company and you are also providing a service. I think that's something a lot of people struggle to strike the balance with. I felt a lot of that in certain different jobs I had. But how do you, people are really interested. Okay, I'm going to pause real quick. We have so many questions from you guys, a lot geared towards Prince. We're going to just have chitty chat convo. We're going to talk about our relationship, some hot goss. I actually don't have any goss, but I bet we'll find some.
I'm sure.
And our personal friendship, and also just getting Abby's take on things. Abi and I are very dear friends just because I think, well, she's hot and she's a prince. I love royalty, but also really smart, has a great perspective on things, very different from mine or Jess's. I think it's going to be a really fun addition to the pod.
Oh my gosh, I hope so. It's a lot to live up to. You know, as princes have to deal with.
Yeah, this is regular pressure for a prince like you. And so we're going to rattle through some of these questions that you guys sent in. And one that people wrote in a lot about was just curiosity about how you balance your freelance work. And do you want to share a little bit about like some of the different jobs you do work, passions, if there's a hierarchy to them or priority?
Oh my gosh.
Anything you feel like sharing?
It has like shifted so much over the years, but I don't know, because I remember the question saying something like, how do you get into freelancing?
Well, somebody asked, how did you get into freelance writing?
Oh, gotcha.
Somebody else asked, how do you freelance with confidence in the beginning?
Ooh.
There's a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is actually what you should nickname me, not Prince.
Prince Imposter?
Yeah, that would be great. So I guess I'll just like start at the beginning of my freelance career, because it has been basically my career since 2019 maybe. But yeah, so I moved to DC from Utah for grad school. I went to George Mason University for my MFA in creative nonfiction writing. And I moved into DC. I lived in Fairfax for 2 years, but I moved into DC my last year. And in that last year, I was lucky enough to have gotten this fellowship that made it so I didn't have to teach or like do any writing center work. I just got to write and go to classes. And it was amazing, but I also found myself like in need of more structure. And I went to this thing called the Little Salon, which I wish was still an event, but they used to just host in different people's like homes around DC. Like there would be a reading, somebody would play some music, there might be some other like performance, but it
very classic salon.
Yeah, it was very cool. And I wish it kind of went defunct in COVID, sadly. But anyway, when I was there, I just saw this. This is so random. I just saw this woman across the room and I was like, she seems cool. Like I think they had announced her as a co-founder of this nonprofit. And I was like, she sounds really cool. And my mom, throughout my whole life, she's been like a CFO of a company and for decades, you know. She always told me that she got tired of reading resumes where people were talking about how much her company could help them, and she was drawn to the people who were talking about how they could help her. And so I just had it in my head. I was like, I'm gonna go up to that lady, talk to her about her job, and see how I can help.
Wow, that's great advice.
Yeah, so I just literally did. I just asked her what she was up to.
This was just based on vibes. Literally vibes from across the room. You were like, something is drawing me to this lady.
Yes.
You didn't know anything about her.
I'm sure they said like she was the nonprofit leader or whatever. I think they must have, because I was like, I clocked in on her. Anyway, and so I talked to her and they were going to have a gala. It's this literary nonprofit in DC called The Inner Loop. It's really cool. They do different readings every month and just have local writers come and read their work. But yeah, they were about to have a gala and she said that they were looking for volunteers. So I did it.
You just volunteered?
Yeah, I just volunteered. And then,
awesome.
And then I just got close with one of the co-founders and we started working on podcasting together because it was something I was interested in. I just helped her produce episodes and yeah, then COVID hit. Anyway, that's kind of that's like a long story to say, basically just like, I don't know, if anyone's trying to get into freelancing, I think that's my biggest advice is to find organizations that you think are super cool and just like ask them if they need help. Yeah. It's worked for me like a million times.
Yeah, I don't even think that's like I think that's amazing advice. The lessons I hear from that are, number one, if you really want to get into a new field where you don't have, or a new arena or a new organization where you don't have the resume to make yourself competitive, offer to work for free for some amount of time. You can do it for a short, you can do it for one event, you can volunteer for this, like make it fit your financial needs. If you're willing to work for free, you can get that foot in the door. It can be worth a lot. And a lot of other people won't do that. A lot of other people won't be willing to take a step down financially. Sometimes it doesn't work for them. But if you can make that work somehow, you can get in the door. Other lesson I take away from that, what do they say? Like 80% of jobs are never posted about. They're never posted online.
It's like who you know.
They're filled some other way. They're filled like that volunteer position was never posted about somewhere.
Yep.
Or, you know, people hire internally. Most jobs are never even posted online.
Yeah. Yes.
And also, you just gotta like bluff sometimes.
You kind of do. Yeah.
I actually think I have more or less lied my way into every career I've ever had.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, you kind of did the same thing with interior design.
Totally.
You talked to that woman, right, in Ohio, and you were like, I'm interested in this. Can I help you?
I asked to just be her assistant.
Yeah.
She was like, you shouldn't be my assistant. You should design things. And the reason she even offered me that is because she was one person running a boutique design business, not a huge firm, which is part of why I contacted her. Someone at a huge design firm would never speak to me. Like, I would have to have an interior design degree. But I knew, one woman running her own firm who I really liked, and she had 4 kids at home. I was like, I know that bitch needs help. I know she needs help.
Yeah.
And I think I've done that with like everything. And I don't think, I know that some people will be really freaked out hearing that of like, sure. Apply for shit you're not qualified for. Talk to people and volunteer help even if you have no idea what you're doing. So that's going to scare the crap out of some people. But I also think it's what almost like all successful people have done. Yeah. I don't actually think it's that rare. I think it's like what you have to do.
Yeah. And I mean, there's obviously still a lot of like hustling in it too. It's not like this led to money immediately, right? I was just an intern for a little while I finished out my grad program. But over the years, like I just kept those connections, kept that relationship. I went through like different full-time jobs that I just hated.
Tell us when you really hated.
Here's the thing is that like I loved the people at the jobs. And so I don't want anyone working there to think that I like hated my experience of being with those people. But, I was just like an admin assistant at like a language school for a while, which meant I basically had like 2 tasks per day. And this was during COVID, and I would complete them, and then I would stress myself out about doing nothing for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And I remember my husband, Jake, being like, why don't you write in this time off that you have nothing to do? And I'm like, because there's going to be an email that pops up randomly that takes me out of the flow. And I always had just some stupid excuse for like why I couldn't make a life work around it. But
do you think that was really a stupid excuse, or do you think that was like true to just how your brain works when you need to like work creatively, that you can't be bracing for an email?
Yeah, no, you're right. It is. It's just how it works. And I think, obviously that's probably what pushed me towards freelancing in general. And so I got out of that by going back to teaching, which is when we met.
We're speaking to a professor. No. Yes, you are.
I mean, I'm not a PhD.
You were an adjunct professor, right?
Yeah,
that's a professor.
Yeah,
that's so hot.
Taught
you should
some
say
college
that.
Classes.
Yeah, professor. I mean, forget Prince. You're a professor. That's crazy.
That's so true.
Yeah,
why haven't I been asking you to call me by my real title?
And why are you pretending like you're not a professor?
Because I haven't done it in like 3 years. I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah. Well, here's my problem with being a professor is that's where imposter syndrome comes in for me.
I bet.
Because I look like a baby.
Tell them how old you are. First of all, I actually don't. For a moment, if you've seen images of Abigail on our YouTube or on our Instagram, just pause for a moment and take a guess at how old Abby is. Okay, now Abby, tell them how old you are.
I'm 31 years old. I'll be 32 in September.
So that's 16 years older than everyone was guessing in their heads.
Yeah, I think so.
You look very, very young, and it really has actually been a big problem for you professionally.
It really has. Yeah, I've been, it's difficult in teaching because the college students look my age. They think that I'm their age. They think I have nothing to offer them.
You could play a high school student. Easily.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Have somebody cast me in a film. That'll be my next venture.
Yeah.
Let's find a director who needs help.
You sassy little
Where
prince.
Are they? Yeah, so it was difficult. It took a really long time to like gain authority. Like there's always a window of time for teachers where they have to figure out how to establish that authority, but for me it just seemed a lot longer than my peers.
Do you feel like you had to put on like a different, like a more extreme professional mask in order to earn that because you looked so young?
Yeah, and I did it wrong. Like the first time that I taught, I was just like, hi guys. I was like, oh yeah, everything's chill in here. This is a really chill classroom.
You tried to relate too hard. Wow.
And so then the next semester I was just like, okay, no.
Wait, what did you do the next semester that was more effective then?
I was just like really, for me, bold in my communication, where instead of, because I feel like the way that I talk to people is like, if a student was like, oh, I can't turn this essay in, or, you know, they have some dumb excuse or something, and you can just tell that they're bullshitting. Like, you can just tell, you know, I would be like, oh, you know, no worries. Like, take the weekend.
That was your first semester and you were being chill and relatable. Okay.
Yes. And then the second semester, I would be more like, well, it's due today. So if you can't get it in, we'll get some points off, because that's what it says in the syllabus that you should have read. Yeah. But I kind of forgot all of that. So that I had taught in...
You forgot how to do that?
I had taught in 2018 and 2019. And then after this full-time job experience, I went back to teaching in 2022. And I kind of forgot. And I was like, did the like, it's just a chill classroom. Because it was like post-COVID, and there was all these rumors about how students kind of like regressed in a lot of ways, which I found to be true. They just like forgot how to exist in a classroom. It was like several people
literally failed. Your behavior in the classroom, or just like how to pass a course?
Both. Yeah.
Wow.
It was really, really odd. Like multiple people just failed, which was I was not used to that. Yeah. You know, I'm not a hard grader, you know, like turn in your work. I'm not going to give you like a C+ because you got some grammar wrong. Like, that's not my style. But multiple people just failed because they just didn't do anything. Wow. Anything. It was just a really weird time. And anyway, it's a longer story, but I ended up leaving that and started freelancing at a local magazine. Again, I knew the editor. I had done freelance articles for her while I was teaching. And the reason
you were writing journalism.
I was writing some journalism.
You were writing some journalism down.
And it was because like a friend had introduced me to the editor. So again, it was just like literally networking. Yeah.
And I do want to emphasize, I feel like there's certain people who I think get really discouraged when they hear that.
I know.
But I think it is important to emphasize, especially for like the young audience listening who's in the workforce, that is going to be how you get most of your jobs.
Especially if you're freelancing. Like you just kind of build a name, build connections, and then different people will reach out to you when they have a need that needs to be filled.
Yeah. And I think that the N word, networking.
Wow.
Sorry. Well, whatever. I think the word networking. Okay, hold on. That word freaks people out a lot.
Yeah.
And
because it is annoying. I'm like, I'm going to go to this happy hour.
What does it mean even? And I did hear somebody put it well one way. Maybe it was Jess. I don't even remember if it was Jess, but just being like, networking is just socializing. And the people that you're most likely to actually successfully get a job or get a connection or get a lead from is someone that you genuinely do enjoy talking to.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's plenty of people where networking doesn't go very far with me. Like, we just don't have a natural connection.
Yeah.
But follow the places that you do. It should feel a lot like just connecting with people.
Yeah. For every connection that I made, there was like 50 that I didn't make.
Burned to the ground.
Yeah. Like, that's just part of it, I think. So anyway, I'm sorry. This has gone on for so long. This is what I do in therapy too. Just the context of everything.
Yeah, I have trouble with that. Going like 12 years back.
Yes. I'm like, I don't even know how helpful this is. But basically, to fast forward a little bit, I ended up at the magazine for probably the whole of 2023. I was mostly with the magazine while I was editing your podcast.
Oh, we knew each other?
Yes. Oh, I guess I should talk about how I made a podcast. Okay, so while I was teaching, I also made a podcast with my friend Melissa. We were just interested in like little, I don't know, like the little stories in our own backyards that kind of get overlooked. And a lot of it was like climate stories.
Climate change.
Yeah, because we were both very interested and devastated at the state of all things climate. And so we did a little series. It's called We're Here.
You can find it on
it's
all
still
audio places, right? We're Here.
It does. It exists. So you can find it.
We'll link it.
I don't know how great my audio editing was at that time. So, but I have, anyway, that's another aspect I think of freelancing, is that lots of times you just have to like write yourself into the world that you want to be in. because I made this podcast, I learned how to edit audio, how to write scripts, how to interview people, how to research, how to reach out to people, you know, all these different aspects. And then when you told me you were starting a podcast, I was like, do you want help?
Yeah. And that's all it takes is like, it is so funny. How, yeah, there's certain jobs where people really want to hire the experience. They want to make sure you've had such and such experience or credentials or official degree in something. But there's a lot of jobs, especially in freelancing, where people are like, oh, is that word in the title of your job? Great, yeah. I'll take you. Yeah. Like literally, that's kind of how I got into UX design. I went to school for front-end development, which is not UX design. And then the first job that I got in tech, the title of my role, they called it a UX developer, which really doesn't make any sense. Like you can be a UX designer or a front-end developer. A UX developer, like no one really says that, but whatever, they were just kind of idiots, and that was the role they gave me and the title they gave me. And then I ran into some guy at a barbershop who was hiring a UX designer, and I was like, oh, I'm a UX developer. And literally based on that, they were willing to speak to me. And then I was like,
oh shit, we've been looking for one of you.
We've been looking for one of you. Never heard anybody with that title before.
What is that? Wow.
But literally just like having, you know, and I learned enough about design, and I was willing to learn on the job, and I was, you know, met these people who are flexible. But yeah, just being like, oh, I've done some UX. Here it is on my resume. Or like, I've edited a podcast before. Yeah. I think with freelancing a lot of the time, and sometimes with bigger jobs, like that's all it kind of takes.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes. I
with
think
the freelance world specifically, I would say. Yeah. Like you just kind of have to give yourself the title. And you see that all the time with people on like Instagram, just like creating their own jobs.
Oh, totally.
You know what I'm saying? Totally. Yeah, just all of a sudden in their bio, they're just like, oh, I'm a personal stylist. And everyone's like, wow, style me.
Totally.
You know,
if you just start posting about shit and people like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, I think it's really important to emphasize there's some statistic, which I'll butcher, but the point I think rings true, which is that the average woman will only apply to a job if they feel they meet 100% of the job criteria. Yes. And the average man, I don't know what the statistic is, but you know it ain't 100. I would say it's 6 or below. So this is a real thing. Like, and I just want like the young female listeners of this podcast to know that you're not an asshole to fib your way into a job a little bit. It's really what every man does. And it's also really reasonable that you're going to learn on the job. And if you have, I don't know, I think it's a certain combination of being like, okay, I can fib my way into this role, but then I am also going to kill myself over it. I am going to get up to speed.
Yeah.
That's very different than I'm going to fib my way into this role and then I'm going to let the company suffer because of that hiring decision. You know what I mean? I think if you're up for the job, you're up for the job.
Yeah, I think so too. And I wish that more like people hiring understood that as well. I also think if I've made it sound like I was confident in any of these steps, that would be a lie. What did we say? Imposter syndrome is my nickname. I was flubbing my way through everything, and it just has worked out because I can do it, and I would say sometimes good at it. But when you're like pitching yourself as this person who knows all these things about podcasting or writing or whatever, it can feel a little bit like you want to be like, well, I'm good, but I'm not like that good. So don't have too many expectations for me, you know? And I feel like I had to learn after a while to just be like, no, I can do it.
Yeah.
I can. Sure, there might be like bumps along the way, but I don't think that's out of the ordinary for anyone.
I know. You know, it's so funny. Like the people with the most confidence, I feel like have the least competence.
Yeah.
And then it's people who like, what's that bell curve about like the higher your intellect, the more your awareness of what you don't know. And so the more likely you are to doubt yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Whereas like, what there's a concept for it. I can't remember what it's called.
Is it Dunning-Kruger?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Yep. Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah. Because I was going to say like now having done the podcast with you, it led me to another podcast contract. I think we've talked about it on this podcast before, The Opportunist, where I just help in the background of that. Listen how I said that. I helped produce that show, okay?
I help in the background of that.
In all of my experience podcasting, I would say that there's definitely people who are better writers than others that I've worked with. And it's not like I'm sitting there going like, wow, this person lied on their resume. I'm just being like, oh, this script is going to take a little bit more time to edit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And speaking from the other side of the desk.
And so that's what I'm saying is that like, if I was the writer, I would have been like, oh shit, like they're going to know that I don't have
that's so funny.
the experience. But no, it's just like, the script needs a little bit more work.
And I bet what plays into that so much is like whether or not you like working with that person and whether or not you believe in them. Like so much of hiring really is like, who do you want to fucking spend so many hours a day interacting with?
Yeah.
And I will go, I had to go through a lot of interviews to find video editors. Finding a video editor is really, really difficult because video editing is kind of like hiring someone to write a speech for you. It's like there's a lot of qualified speechwriters, but you need a speechwriter in a certain style who can capture a certain voice.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, you need somebody I need someone who I like I do.
Yeah.
And
who gets it and gets what you're trying to communicate.
Yeah. So if there's stuff they have to learn or like technical skills they have to learn, I'm so much happier to work on that and work on the training of that with somebody who like gets me, we work together well, they have a good attitude. Yeah, there's so many expert editors out there who I would never fucking have on my team.
Yeah, definitely. It's personality, and that's part of why like the networking helps in an annoying way because you get to know them and you get to understand if this is something you want to keep doing with this person. Which reminds me of the question that was like, how does working together influence our friendship?
Yeah, somebody wrote in and said, lol to this question. Somebody wrote in and asked Abby, one of the listeners asked, do you sometimes feel like a third wheel?
I know.
And is it weird to maintain a friendship while working together? So I guess they're saying the third wheel is like you third wheeling to Jess and I.
I guess so, yeah. Like maybe while listening and editing.
Whatever you take from that, I'm going to let you answer before I lol at that, yeah.
I don't know if I've ever felt like a third wheel.
I mean, if anything, at least when we started the podcast, you and I were closer than Jess and I were.
Yeah.
Like Jess and I have a history, but we weren't as close friends as you and I were. Yeah. When we started, I didn't feel like there was any. That's why the question made me laugh. I was like, why would Abby be third wheel?
I know. It's just like it's just a different, like, work position. I guess I've just separated it in my mind of like work versus friendship, right? Because like, and also Jess lives in Chicago.
Yeah.
So
I can see why it sounds that way as a listener. Because all you hear is like Jess and I chatting and then Abby chimes in. But the reality is like Abby and I live in the same city.
Basically the same neighborhood.
Same neighborhood. And Jess is away in Chicago.
Yeah. So it's never really, it hasn't bothered me in like the friendship jealousy way. Yeah. If that's how they meant it. I will say when I'm like listening to conversations, there are definitely times that I want to chime in and kind of like wish I was in the room to be like, well, what about this?
Yeah.
Or like, this is how I interpreted it.
I like when you do.
Yeah. And so, so sometimes I'll add it to the episode, but I also haven't done that as much lately because I don't know. It doesn't feel the same when you guys can't respond to like my little takes on things. The last time I did it was when you guys were talking about Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just added in those takes because I was like, they don't really need responses. Yeah, it's just like my opinions on the actors or whatever. But if it was something like deeper about work or love or whatever, it wouldn't feel as easy to add in randomly, you know?
How is it for you working with a friend? How is this also like freelancing, like we were talking about? It's like like the podcast hired you, but also you're your own boss, but also you're editing for like, I don't know, with a friend. How's that?
My boss, like if you could see me, like I would be like blinking twice. Like she's crazy. No, I'm just kidding. I've had a really great time, honestly. Like again, I feel like it's maybe, I don't know. It just somehow I've just like immediately from the get-go I was like, I'm separating work from friends because like we see each other so often. I don't want to take it into our friendship.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had experiences working with friends in the past where it has gotten in the way of like how we feel about each other, and I just was like pretty determined to not let that happen again.
Yeah.
Because I love you.
Oh my God, she said it.
I said it out loud.
You said it so many times. I say I love you and Abby won't say it back.
That is a lie. Actually, it's not a lie.
It's not a lie. But I also know it's not personal anymore and I don't care.
It's me being like chaotic and in my head all the time, and you say it and I'm like thinking in my head like, oh, I hope I didn't hug her too tight. I hope I... Oh gosh, I gotta go to the grocery store after this.
I stopped caring if you say it back. I don't give a fuck. I love you. Whatever you feel is not my business.
Fine.
Okay, I will answer the question now.
Okay.
It was very stressful for me.
Oh my gosh. I actually had a feeling you were gonna say that.
Yeah, did you know that?
No. Well, I don't know. There's definitely been like harder points.
Well, there were harder points. I think learning to work together, I think that's true with anybody.
Yeah.
Like Jess and I learning to run a podcast together. Like we had probably a year of fumbling around in that, and now it's like seamless.
Yeah.
And when you joined the podcast, there was fumbling around, figuring out, I think that just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
And I think there's more fumbling when you have other relationships. And now it's been seamless for so long. But when we were still figuring out like how to work together and everything, and even just like our editing process and all of it,
yeah,
I felt so stressed. For some reason, I felt like preserving the friendship was my responsibility. Aww. Not that you didn't care about it.
No, I know.
But I felt like because I was in the position, I'm not your boss, but in the position of giving directives for the project we're working on.
Yeah.
I felt responsible for also, I felt like it was on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was like, it was weird to give you directives.
Yeah.
And that's not how we talk to each other.
Yeah.
As friends otherwise. And it was weird, but it also, to me at least, feels necessary. I don't like working and trying to talk as a friend. I don't like, like we're both so anxious and if you don't have to do it if you don't want to, and you don't have to come over if you don't want to, and I love you, da, 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 da.
But that would be so inefficient.
That would be fucking intolerable, and I wouldn't respect either of us to work like that.
No.
So to me it does, maybe some people can work that way, but to me that doesn't actually feel authentic to work that way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel empowering to as like two professional, mature adult women who own their businesses. Mm-hmm. And but it also felt so uncomfortable giving you fucking instructions.
Yeah.
And if there was friction, I really felt like it was on me to protect our friendship. And it felt very stressful to me for a while, just worrying about the risk of I did not want to damage anything.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
But now it feels great, and I don't even think about it.
Yeah. No, I think we really have hit a stride in the last year or so.
But that's the thing, is like that weird shit happens at work.
Yes.
Like it also will happen.
Yeah.
And it's just completely learning to deal with that than I think it is ever in just having a friendship.
There's like a different dynamic where I feel like I want to be more competent with you than I would with like a boss at a full-time job. Does that make sense? I
had no idea. I thought you would want to be more incompetent with me.
I don't know. I think just because we know each other in so many different ways. Like I want to me, that makes me want to like prove myself even more.
In a good way?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Because
that makes me happy.
Yeah, it makes me get better, I think, and like work harder and figure out solutions rather than just being like, whatever, I don't care about this.
Yeah.
This full-time job where there's 50,000 other workers.
I mean, that's kind of why I don't think I would take a job with a friend.
Really?
Is that there's I don't really like doing, I mean, I don't really take clients anymore for design anyway, but taking friends or family clients, like it's kind of stressful.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you cannot pay me enough to treat you as a client.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be weird and you're not going to like it. I've actually heard advice from a lot of designers saying like never fucking take a friend or family as a client. But when you're starting out, sometimes you don't have a choice.
Sometimes you have to. Yeah. And I actually, people give me that advice all the time. And I'm like, I honestly don't think I would do it with anyone else, but not because this has been a good experience. I just think I've had bad experiences in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm not really interested in like finding my way through that again.
It takes a lot of finding your way through it. Like, yeah. I think it does take an additional effort. I mean, I guess I'm kind of on the fence. Like, I'm trying to think, if you were just a random hoe, if you weren't Prince and you were just some fucking random,
I kind of am
Duke.
I was an NPC in your life for a really long time, you know.
Oh, we tell them how we met?
Walked past each other on the street.
I know.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
I'm tired of what we were talking about. Let's answer another question. Okay. People want to know how we met.
Okay. Do you want to go first or should I?
You go.
Okay.
It's the Prince up.
So, once upon a time, I was working at the magazine that I told you all about. And my sister randomly sent me a video on YouTube of this cute little girl in a headband. And she was like, I think she lives in your neighborhood. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I looked at the video and I was like, that is in my neighborhood. Wow. But it was like, you were apartment hunting. That was the video I saw. And I'm not really like a YouTube person. I really wasn't until I like came across your video. And then I was like, oh, she's funny. Let me see what else she's up to. And there was a couple design videos. And so it just so happened that the magazine I was working for, the edition that was coming out was the theme of urban adulting. And I thought how fun to like pitch a article about designing rental spaces, because that was kind of what you were up to at the time, designing a rental space, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just reached out on Instagram like a little freak. And
dirty little Prince.
You were just like, oh my gosh. Like I can picture your voice singing now, like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, I don't know, you're just you're like, wow, so sweet. So
yeah. Oh, I bet we can find our first ever Instagram DM.
Could.
Should I pull it up?
Yeah, you pull it up.
Okay, wait. I found the Instagram message you wrote to me. This is January 20th, 2022. You want me to read it?
Yeah, this is
great. Okay, wait, you read your message and I'll read mine.
What's so fun too is that this will show like how I spoke as a freelancer 3 years ago. You know?
Yeah, I'm
and
excited.
I'm like wondering if I would change anything now. Okay. Hi, Caroline. My name...
Pathetic.
My name is Abi, and I'm a writer for magazine. I won't say the name. A local events and lifestyle magazine. I came across your YouTube. Weirdly, my sister in Utah sent it to me, and I basically binge watched everything you made. Anyway, our next issue for the magazine is about adulting, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in an interview about decorating and designing rental spaces. I actually stand by that.
Yeah, that's a great message.
It's a pretty cute message.
It's a great message. I said, hey, Abby. Wow, what a sweet message.
I knew it. Wow.
What is wrong with me?
I knew the wow was in there.
The wow.
Wow. That's classic wow. Caroline. Wow.
Wow.
You start episodes like that. Wow, wow, wow.
I don't know. It's like a tick.
It's good.
Okay. You are so kind, and a big thank you to your sister.
Yeah. Shout out Liv.
Shout out Liv. Heart eyes emoji. That sounds super fun. I don't know if I should put super in a professional message.
Super.
That sounds super fun.
It's on Instagram.
I'd love to! Exclamation point. Let me know what you need from me. Heart emoji. Okay, desperate. I think that's a little too many emojis. Act chill. Act like anyone has messaged you ever before.
Were you really excited though? Do you remember?
I think I was excited.
Were you like wow, this is gonna be amazing, or were you just kind of like, oh, cool?
No, I think I was like, oh, that's sweet, that's fun. Like I think, yeah, pretty much like that. I actually vlogged a little. There's a little bit of a vlog.
I remember it.
It's in one of my vlogs where I'm like, oh, I'm going to meet this girl who reached out and wants to interview me for this thing.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. And then we met at a coffee shop. And you talked.
I talked. Yeah, this is my point of view. Yeah.
This was your interview.
This is my point of view. So I was nervous because I was just like, it was one of those moments where I'm like, I mean, I am doing this for work, but like, I think we probably could be friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I'm always chatty, but not that chatty. Like that was pretty chatty because we were talking I think we talked for like an hour before I actually ask you questions.
And then you were like, maybe we should start the interview.
Yeah.
But that was also great.
But it was like,
and we're connected.
Yeah, because like it just flowed pretty naturally as far as I remember. Because I remember in my head being like, I got to start this interview, but I was just like, oh, but we're talking about like sibling dynamics, and you told me my eyes were pretty, and I was like, stop, your eyes are pretty.
I'm such a flirt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've always been in love with you.
Yeah. But yeah, so I thought that, I don't know, I just remember being like, okay, cute. Like maybe we could actually be friends after. Like I left feeling like, okay, that was like a good deal.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, you know, sometimes you leave these situations and are just like, oh shit, like I did some weird stuff in there. But I actually didn't feel that with you. So I was like, maybe we'll see what happens.
That's a good sign. Yeah, I definitely didn't expect that I was going to come away with a friend from that. But I do remember specifically thinking, oh, that's one of very few funny people I've met in DC. Like, you were funny.
Gosh, what?
Yeah, you know you're funny.
Oh, well.
Well. And that I was very vividly remember being like, oh, she's funny. And I don't think that many people are funny, I guess. I'm kind of a snob.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But then we really ended up bonding. Actually, the thing that brought us together was like sexual misconduct.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Am I wrong?
It took me a second. Yep.
So there was, for this article that Abi wrote, they had to do like a little mini photo shoot to have images of me in the magazine. And they were sending this photographer over to my apartment to take photos of me decorating stuff in my apartment. And Abi was on this email chain and she was like, hey, do you want me to come over and like supervise this photo shoot so it's not just you and some man you've never met? And I was kind of like, who cares? Whatever. It's just going to be fine. It's going to be professional. But sure, you can come. And then holy shit, was I so glad Abi came. This guy was so creepy. It was actually astounding. I feel like I was so ready to be alone with a strange man in my apartment. I was not scouring for creepiness. And then, wow, he really brought it. And he was like offering to take extra photos for me for like my own personal brand. And I was like, okay, sure. While we're here, sure.
He was really into branding.
Yeah. And didn't he make some kind of joke about like, he's not going to do anything with these in his basement or something?
Oh my gosh.
It was really weird. And then afterwards, he's not really into branding. What I realized is this guy offered to take these additional photos for me for my personal website or to promote my own side business or whatever. And he used them and held them over my head.
Oh, yeah.
He wouldn't give them to me until I like agreed to hang out with him. And he was really, really creepy, so I wouldn't agree to hang out with him. And I eventually was just like, keep the photos. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not hanging out with you.
Yeah.
And he was obviously using them. He was trying to use that as leverage. I think this was like his...
Oh my gosh.
He was so creepy. And then Abi and I went and hung out with him. I don't know why. Like, he like
got started a group
something.
chat with us because he was like, I really liked the vibe of all three of us. Like,
Ew.
Let's get together. And at the time, I was just kind of like, okay.
I don't think either of us had fully put words to it yet.
No, we didn't talk about him specifically until...
Well, we had never spoken actually before. Like, you did the interview, you came over, we did the photo shoot, and then I think we all got a drink or something. And he was so bizarre.
He was
just
so
you, me, and
awkward
him.
at that
He was
drink.
really bizarre.
Yeah.
We also learned he had a live-in long-term girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which made his behavior
He's still with her. Yeah.
even weirder. And he was really disrespectful, and like we both got a weird vibe. And at the end of this drink, he went to the bathroom, and Abi and I were just standing there. And I think you were like, "Hey, do you want to hang out just us next time?"
I was like, maybe next time it could be just you and me. And you were. It looked like you were so relieved. Like I remember that you were like,
yeah, because I thought he was like your colleague, and so I wasn't gonna say how weird he made me feel.
No, I didn't know him really.
I was so relieved to hear that. And then after that was like the beginning of our friendship.
Yeah. Yes. We endured trauma together.
I will say one topic that I think comes up on the podcast a lot is just this notion of like making meaningful friends as an adult.
Yeah.
And we have done that, Abigail.
3 years.
3 years of friendship as adults in a new city with no in-between connections. And I was reflecting on that, like, what is the arc of that? I mean, I guess I've been reflecting on the arc of building a deep and meaningful friendship in adulthood. And the truth is that it just takes so much more time than you think it should.
Yeah.
I think it takes so much more time. Even after a year of consistently hanging out, I don't know when I felt like, I don't know when that benchmark was that I felt like, oh, deep and meaningful friend who knows me. But it's more than just time, and it's more than just instances you hang out. I think it's just like, it just takes a while. I think it takes like a variety of environments, having some group hangouts, having some weird hangouts, having some one-on-one, being able to see them at this weird thing. And it just feels so, I don't know. I think that like you and I are kind of in a friend group now with a bunch of different girls that I brought together and have all gotten to know each other. And that helped solidified some depth in different ways. I don't know. I think I just like was reflecting on how moving to DC, I knew nobody. Everybody I am friends with here, I met here and have like developed those friendships over the last 4 years I've lived here. And it just takes a lot of time.
It really does. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Thinking back to when we first met again, because like, we would have met in January, maybe hung out with that guy in like March, and then maybe we went for a drink in April. Like it's very spaced out, and you have to, I don't know, like remember details to bring up in conversation, remember what you had in common. Like you have to put a lot of effort into it. But yeah, I kind of feel like it's almost similar to the job hunt, where you just have to, like, again, just put yourself out there. I was actually thinking about it a lot this past week, because there's been 3 different people that I have like acquaintanceships with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for some reason this week I was just like, I'm going to solidify a plan,
To like lock them into real friendships?
Yes. And so like
all of them? Or are you going to select one?
Well, I guess we'll see. Yeah, it's like it's a bachelor type situation.
Okay.
But yeah, like one of them I was like, let's go on a walk in the morning. One of them is like, let's go to a museum we talked about. One of them was, let's get together and work. Like it's all these people that have been like at the periphery, like in my head of like, I need to follow up with these people. Yeah. I need to like make something happen. And yeah, like, and it does feel like a work task at some point.
And I think that's like was a really important lesson for me to realize that, okay, so there's like acquaintance level friends that like, okay, you see each other every once in a while and like you obviously get along, but there's just a lack of flow there. You like each other, but you don't have that flow yet because it's kind of acquaintance level.
Yes.
And then can still be really, really nice. And then eventually that can transform into an actual friendship. Like we're friends, we have flow, we see each other more regularly. And it's like, it's kind of magic to me, the way that acquaintanceships can turn into friendships, because those things feel very different. And sometimes you have an acquaintance relationship that you're like, this could only ever be acquaintance. But I've learned not to put those out. Just like, okay, let it be acquaintance. Maybe it'll just be acquaintance. Let it be acquaintance for a year or 2 years or 3 years. And then boom, one day you wake up and it's a fucking friendship.
Yeah.
And then there's also the friendship level. And then there's a further level that's like a deep, deep friendship. Like this person makes me feel known.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long that took, but that took a while to feel like my friends in DC, like, it took a long enough just to feel like, oh, I've got friendships and social events to fill my calendar. And it took maybe a year or 2 longer to be like, I feel known by these people.
Yeah.
And that also happened, I'm not sure exactly when. I remember feeling like I didn't have it. I remember feeling like I don't totally feel known. I have people to pass time with. I have people to hang out with and people to laugh with. But I don't know if they know me. And then it slowly changes.
Yeah.
And I also made like a really big effort I think a part of that was like I had, a friendship with you, friendship with my friend Ashley, a friendship with a friend Molly, some other people. And they were all individual friendships, getting a coffee, getting a drink, getting a meal. And I really missed the group dynamic.
Yeah.
And I was really determined to like make this group dynamic. And that too, I think helped deepen a lot of the ways we relate to each other, because you see different sides of people. And I feel like I was like trying to work on getting this group, 4 disparate people to relate to each other for like, I've been working on that for like 2 years. And there was a while where I was like, oh, this will never congeal.
Yeah.
This will never take off. This will never feel natural. And then all of a sudden it did.
Because the cadence for a while, like so often we would just have to catch up every time.
If it's too infrequent, or if there's this, I think is what I learned. If there's members in the group who are not committed, then
and they're only there once every
6 months, then it stalls everybody else. Because then when you hang out,
you have
that person is doing a catch up, and they ask everybody catch up questions, and then it can only ever be a catch up, and they kind of self eliminated.
Yeah.
So now we have this like filed down group of 4
of
and
people
like
who are committed to seeing each other and
it's
hanging.
a real friend group.
It's like a real relationship. Like
it's a real relationship.
You have to put effort into it, like for real.
It was really amazing to me, like to just like reflect back on how long acquaintance level, friend level, deep friend level, group level.
Yeah.
There were phases. I think there was like 80% of the way through each phase that I was like, this isn't working. And then all of a sudden it was.
Yeah. I know. And again, like I couldn't tell you what the turning point actually was. But I do remember this one time you and I went on a walk in the morning. Oh. Remember we used to do cute little morning walks?
Yeah.
That was really nice.
That was nice.
Do it again.
Why don't we do it?
I don't know.
I think I don't ever really I'm not awake in the morning usually.
I know. But on this morning walk, we talked about something like really deep.
You started crying talking about your like...
my love for you.
Your love for me.
Literally.
I will never forget
you're
that.
Being mean to yourself, and it made me so sad.
You started crying. Yeah, it was like really beautiful. I love that you cried for me.
That to me feels almost like the turning point. Like, I don't know that I can like pick that out. Does that make sense? Like,
I do remember that happening, and I was shocked at the depth of your feeling. I was like, this bitch won't even say I love you back to me. Fucking little angel bitch.
I have said it just so everybody knows. And I think I did before then. I don't know. I don't even know what year that was, but I just remember that's always stood out to me because I don't know, it just felt like we reached like a different vulnerability level, because I think you and I are both very good at like getting deep real fast,
but there's some things you can't cheat, like
we just still have walls up.
Just because you can talk deep doesn't mean you're like fully known still.
Yeah, exactly.
It's weird. That is funny because we both can do that, which I think is why we were friends easily. But I don't know. I think making friends as an adult in a new city is very difficult.
Yeah, it just takes time.
Yeah, you got to take time.
Do you remember when we had that conversation in the car? We were talking about how we miss that kind of college level friendship where you just kind of show up at somebody's house.
Someone's doing laundry.
And people,
like, you're not even really talking.
You're so comfortable with each other, it doesn't matter.
That's true.
And I feel like that was also kind of a turning point for us, because that's when we did like I would just be like, I'm going on a walk. Do you want to meet up? And we would. And it was great. It was just a tiny little break. It would be like half an hour at the most.
I think the fact that we talked about that together, and you're the one who brought it up, gave us both permission to do it. Because I'm really not spontaneous. I think I'm kind of hard to meet up with spontaneously. And I do always have this idea. I just talked about this in a YouTube video I put out today. But I do always have this idea that if we hang out, me and anybody.
Yeah.
It has to be like a 3-hour event.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. And then if that's your idea, that's so limiting.
And those 15-minute hangs can like revitalize you for the rest of your day. Mm-hmm. Like literally, I was
a sweet little spank on the butt.
Yes, I was walking home from this museum press tour I went on today, and I ran into a friend in my neighborhood, and we talked for like 20 minutes.
Cute as hell.
And then I just went in, and I was like, that was amazing. It's so great to just like have a cute little community here, and just talk for a second. I don't know, it just changes everything. And
so hard to
and I
get
think that we talked about it almost as if we were like in a long-term partnership.
You and me,
you know what? Yeah, like
we did.
It was like, this is what we can do to like make our relationship stronger. And so then we were both like, okay, let's do it.
You know, I think we need a little re-injecting of that for us.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. I'm going to go back to some questions the listeners wrote in with. Do you have any best marriage advice?
Oh my gosh.
So Prince Abigail has been married to Prince Jake for 10 years.
It'll be 10 in October.
10 years.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice.
Of course
honestly.
you are.
I know. I think it's so funny every time you say that.
What? I think one of the things I admire about you most is how you relate to your husband and how you think about
Whoa, tell me more.
I just think you're really thoughtful. I can tell that your marriage is really collaborative. I can tell that you really are equals and buddies. And if ever there is a moment that you don't feel like an equal or you feel like you really advocate for yourself as a woman, and I really respect the way that you talk about it, and I feel like you teach me about it. And which is not to say, I mean, it's not a thing about Jake. I think Jake is one of the most like loving, wife supporting men. Like you guys just seem like a team. And also there's plenty of moments, I think, just living as a woman that you have to be like, hey, this thing felt weird. I know you didn't know that felt weird, but I'm gonna let you know. I think you're really great at thinking about it, advocating for it. You guys just always seem to have fun together. Aww. It's also, I know it's so rare to have left a religion, an intensive religion together and stay together. I know that's so rare. I think that speaks to your relationship a lot too. And there's nothing wrong with separating after leaving the Mormon church, but that could be a really, really great thing to do, separate. But I think it also, I don't know, I think it's one of my favorite things about you. You guys have a great relationship.
Cute and nice. That's crazy. Yeah, no, I love him a lot. He's my best bud. I'm really lucky. And I don't say that lightly because I don't know, I feel like so many times couples like on the internet are like, we're obsessed with each other. And
no, I think it's performative a lot, and you guys really are buddies.
Yeah, no,
you're buddies.
He's my best bud. Like, I guess that my advice is to go through something so hard.
I think that is good advice.
Honestly, like, obviously it just like made us stronger.
Leaving the church together.
Yeah, because you have to like go through really difficult thought processes about who you are and how you're going to work in the world and how you want to be in the world and how you want to be with each other now that you have now that your moral framework has completely shifted, like it's, there's definitely hard times. I don't know. It's always complicated and like, he has his own story and I'm not going to speak for like his beliefs or anything, but it definitely just made us reconsider how we want to go forward in life. And, I think for a lot of people where one person or both people leave Mormonism, it does end in divorce because, oftentimes we're getting married so young. We have, I did too. I got married at 22. We have no idea what we want out of life. Yeah. All we know is that we're supposed to get married. And so we do it, but we don't know what marriage is or like how to be married. And so you just have to like fumble your way through it, kind of grow together, which I do think is beautiful in a way, but it can easily cross over to like growing up together rather than just growing together. And so I would say that's like one of our biggest, what's a good word? Like struggles throughout the 10-year relationship is knowing when we're like growing and when we're growing up. Like,
what is the difference?
So I would say growing up is just like being like, you never had the chance to be in certain mindsets. I never got to have a crazy 20s. Whatever. I never, we didn't get to like learn on our own how to be a partner, how to take care of a house, how to, just do everyday tasks.
Oh, you're figuring out all the growing up at the same time while being in a marriage.
Yeah. Okay. Like obviously you grow together in like your relationship and how to, how to be better for each other and stuff. But like growing up with like literal life tasks. Yeah. Like you're just doing it all together at the same time. And I know that's like an aspect to most people's relationship too, but when you get married so young, it's just like a different naive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the difference between 22 and 25, those are like different generations basically. And 25 to 28, 28 to 31, like they're,
yeah.
As you get older, the life stage is kind of I don't know. The differences between those years is less.
Yeah.
But, when you're like 15 and 17,
yeah,
you'd never speak to each other because you're so different.
Right.
Yeah, those years matter a lot when you're younger.
Yeah.
So you guys had to be like really intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're still trying to figure out what life is going to be. Because I know there was another question about like if we're going to like raise children in religion and stuff. Which I don't know. I just think it's kind of funny. But
why do you think it's funny?
I just think it's funny that one of the questions was, did you leave Mormonism? Or why did you leave Mormonism? And then one question is like, are you going to raise your kids Mormon? I was like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's like things like that you have to figure out, where it's like we grew up in a very specific way of living, very specific religion. And now all of a sudden we have to figure out what that looks like. You know, everything that was modeled for us was a very specific model.
Yeah.
I don't really have a ton of experience with, you know, watching people not be raised Mormon, you know?
Yeah.
And so those are things that we're still going to have to figure out if we decide to like have kids. Yeah. What is that going to look like?
So you said your answer is no for raising them Mormon?
Yeah. I would not raise them Mormon. Shan't be doing that.
Be.
But I obviously like, I don't know. It's difficult because if you're raised, like I was raised in one school of thought, and I don't want to do that to another person.
Of like giving them just atheism or giving them whatever.
Yeah.
You want to give them
the freedom to choose.
That's what I think the real opposite choice is. That's what I think is amazing about you. You said that to me a little bit like before we started recording, just glancing at these questions of being like, I don't want to impose my non-Mormonism either. I think some of the best parents I've heard from talk about not telling their kids what to think, but telling them how to think, and a lot of how to think. It's kind of like the liberal arts education. Is a lot of providing options, providing information,
lenses, interpretations,
and giving them access to information. Which I really think is the opposite of some of the more dangerous communities. Some people, you know, I don't want to name names, but there's certain religious communities that clearly only believe they can thrive and survive by cutting off their members' access to information about the rest of the world.
Yes, 100%.
You could put Mormonism in there.
Oh, for sure.
You could put a lot of religions in there. A lot of religions, not just Mormonism.
Oh, for sure.
And I just always found that to be like such a weak way of, first of all, what a poor sense of self you have if you really think the only worth you have is by eliminating all other paths. But I guess that's a personal opinion. But
no, I agree with you. I mean, I guess it is personal, but I do agree.
Yeah. I feel the same with like, kind of like creative work. I don't know if we talked about this or not, but like you meet a lot of people in different creative fields who are just hyper competitive and hyper cutthroat and will not help each other out and are not collaborative and don't want to lift people up. And like, I'm ambitious. I take my work very, very seriously, and I can be competitive, but to me, being competitive does not mean, it's really important for me to lift other people up.
Yeah, and you do a really good job at it.
I try and do it all the fucking time.
Yeah.
People I believe in. And because I just believe like if I only think my YouTube channel will succeed so long as I prevent people from ever watching other YouTube channels, then my YouTube channel is really not that good. Like, I don't believe that my success is, you know, contingent upon people having access to nothing else. I think that I can talk to them about other creative people. And if I'm making something good and worthwhile that I believe in, people will still find value in it. And I think the same thing, Justin and I have kind of had to wade through this religion question because he's Catholic and I am not only not Catholic, but I actively unchose Catholicism.
Right. Yeah.
I was raised Catholic and I unchose it. So I am more not Catholic than I am even agnostic.
Yeah.
And it was a giant thing for us to talk through. And a lot of it's been in hypothetical because we don't have kids yet. But one thing that became important was realizing like, I'm not opposed to them going to church with him. I'm not opposed to them having access to religion. And it was just important to me that I also can have a voice.
Yeah.
Because it's, to say I have no faith or no beliefs is not true. I have very active beliefs. They might not all be represented by one organization that I can give a name to, but I have very, very strong beliefs and a lot of thought about this. And so when a kid comes home and asks me, what do I think about this belief or this Catholic thing or this Jesus situation, I want to be able to answer and not tell them what to do, but I want to be able to answer with, you know, things that matter to me and are authentic to me as much as Justin can answer that question.
Yeah.
So we kind of landed on this feeling of like, we really need there to be room for both. And I'm sure that will be confusing, but I think that raising a kid in a cult is also confusing. Yeah. I think raising a kid with no structure is also confusing. I think that it's just like, it's tricky. That's why people don't have clear-cut answers to it.
Yeah. Also, kids don't know anything.
They're idiots.
So
they're fucking idiots.
So you guys kind of get to create the reality, right?
It's weird.
It's really weird.
It's weird.
But it also means that to them, it's going to be normal to have a Catholic father and a not Catholic mother. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then I don't think it's such a bad thing. I know a lot of families like that.
Yeah. Then they can just carry that nuance into the rest of their lives.
I was also thinking recently about how much I feel like an individual's relationship to religion is just, okay, this is my new hypothesis.
Oof.
Oh my God.
Bring it.
Is that like an individual's relationship to a religion is dependent on if they were raised in that religion and whether or not they liked their childhood. So for me, my family was very piously Catholic. Catholicism was not a passive check the box kind of thing. It was very active in my family culture. And also I would say I had a really unhappy childhood, a very dysfunctional childhood. And so on some level, becoming an adult, there's this feeling of like, okay, you claim this organization, this way of living claims to offer the answers, but obviously it did not make my life good. Like obviously I don't feel like it gave answers to anyone in my family.
Yeah.
Otherwise things would have gone a lot differently. But I also know a lot of people who were raised Catholic, maybe just as Catholic, and they have no real reason to doubt that because they had a really great childhood experience. And that doesn't mean that their experience is false or stupid or misled. We've all had different experiences. And if I had a purely positive experience of the church and of my own childhood, maybe I wouldn't think to change it. But then I also think of people who were raised without religion, without any organized religion, and also had a horrible childhood. And then I see those people being like, well, the thing that was missing, it must be religion. The thing that must be missing is that we had no moral code. I've seen a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the same thing. They're like, listen, childhood was really hard. Family life was really hard. So what was missing? Oh, we were following this religious compass. So clearly that was wrong. Or, oh, we had no moral compass. So clearly that was wrong. And I just feel like, yeah, that's my new equation, is that your relationship to religion is just based on whether or not you liked your childhood.
I mean, I honestly think that you're onto something. I think I might actually be the variable, but I think you're right about the control. Because, I mean, again, everybody's experiences are so vast and varied, but like I'm in this Facebook group that a friend added me to like years ago. And it's like a faith journey meetup group. And there, I would say like a lot of the stories that I've read in that group are people who had like really traumatizing childhoods or like really weird moments with like a bishop or
is
really...
it all centered around one faith, the faith meetup?
Yeah, this is Mormon.
It's all Mormon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, it'll always be about, like...
And they all grew up Mormon. Okay.
Like, obviously, there's other questions and issues that they had with the church, but there's a lot of times where it's just like, yeah, childhood was bad. My church experience was bad. I think for me, it's been really confusing for family and friends to hear me say I didn't have a bad childhood. I was really happy. Like, I loved it,
Yeah.
I was fully in it. I think... for me, it really was just like access to information. I just like literally thought my way out of it. I don't know how to say it other than that, but I still will have like, people ask me like, what anti-Mormon literature were you reading? What led you out? Like there has to be some impetus. There has to be, and I really cannot pinpoint it. I think throughout my whole life, I've just been kind of skeptical.
Yeah.
I was called a feminist as if it was an insult when I was younger because I was always asking hard questions.
When you were like a child?
Yes, because I was, I had to be modest through my whole life, which meant like skirts and shorts had to go to my kneecaps. I couldn't wear tank tops in public, And in my head, I remember asking my parents, I was like, why can't I wear like short shorts with long socks? And I was just like, I don't know, it's the same amount of skin that's showing. What's the problem? And I remember my dad being like, well, it's like where the skin is. That's the problem. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like none of this makes any sense.
You had more access to critical thinking than your parents did.
But I don't even know like where that came from. Cause I mean, you'll read my journal entries though, and they're always like, oh, I love the church, blah, blah, blah. But underneath I had like really deep concerns and like fears about like the patriarchal structures of the church. That was always like a sticking point with me where, and it just got worse as I grew up and saw what it wanted me to be. And, but anyway, but other than that, honestly, it was just like access to information. Was going to college. I wasn't reading any anti-Mormon literature. That's what they call it. If it's like,
so funny.
If you're reading a book about the church written by someone not in the church.
Oh, okay. Very
us versus them mentality. I studied literature, and so I was reading different perspectives. I was like, that's literally it. You
know, the time, so I was very piously Catholic. Mm-hmm. Like it really had a hold on me. I prayed compulsively. Like it might have been a bit of
scrupulosity, right?
Yeah, scrupulosity.
Yes. Did you get scared like if you didn't say like please bless every member of my family by name?
I had a whole routine. I had to recite verbatim with full meaning, and I had to recite it until I meant it the right way.
Yep.
Because if I decided not to recite it till I had full meaning in it, then that was selfish of me to think, and God knows, and it was selfish of me to put my own schedule and my own whatever I wanted to do next above the fact that I didn't really pray for my dog.
Yep.
Or my parents. Yep. Or whatever, and I'd repeat it compulsively and like do the sign of the cross the right way. And
yes.
It was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in high school, I remember specifically when I started questioning it was in a literature class.
Oh, yeah.
It was not some kind of religious literature. It was just English literature. And I remember taking notes in the back of like Anna Karenina and being like, some of this shit doesn't fucking add up. It was in a literature class.
It really is, because you just start learning.
You start thinking about stuff.
Yeah, you just start learning how to interpret things differently.
Okay, I do want to say, I don't know. I think when I was younger, I had a lot of feelings like, how can anyone believe in any organized religion? I think I used to have a lot of feelings like that. So dumb. It's so dumb. And I no longer feel that way. And I know there's people listening to the podcast. I think my feelings on that have changed a lot. I don't think it's just like dumb flat out. I really don't.
Yeah, no. It provides
I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah.
And I think just like accepting the fact that it is so based on personal experience, personal relationship, like, I don't know. There was a huge moment of realizing, like, my own father, I couldn't really understand why he was so pious. And then I realized at some point that if he was to give up his religion, he would also have to give up hope that he would ever see his, like, dead sister again.
Yeah. Yes.
And you just never, that's just one example, but, like, you never really know. Or, you know, if my aunt gave up religion, she also might give up her sobriety. Like, you just never know what it means to people. And it might be less concrete than that. But I certainly don't feel that religion is pointless.
No,
or that
not
it
at all.
isn't really good for some people. And I also think it obviously does plenty of harm to others.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay to just be like, it's both sometimes.
Totally. And I think, like I literally wrote this in my Substack like last week.
We'll put our Substack in the episode notes.
Yeah, follow along. But I said something like, you know, I believe that religion is a story that we use to comfort ourselves. And I also believe that there's value in like believing that story.
And we also, all of us have a story.
Yeah.
We all have stories we use to comfort ourselves.
Yeah. And so if religion is the way you want to do it, I think it's great. I think when it crosses over into like telling other people how to live their lives, that's when it gets dicey. But if it's like a personal comfort to you and that's how you want to live your life and like get your moral framework, that's not a problem with me. I have a lot of nostalgia for Mormonism. I'm not going to go back, but like I was saying, my childhood was not bad. I'm happy. I have a lot of fun stories I'm going to tell my kids if I have kids, you know?
Yeah.
But and again, back to that question too, they're going to be raised around people who are still Mormon, like their grandparents, you know what I mean? And so it's just going to be a part of their life, whether they're actually going to church or not. So
somebody wrote in at one point, maybe multiple people wrote in about how, like, what to do when their mother or mother-in-law is, you know, inundating their child, the grandchild, with like religious ideas or blah, blah, blah. And I can't remember where I heard this, but someone I was talking to recently was just talking about the fact that, like, your kid is going to be exposed to a lot of ideas that you don't agree with all the time.
You can't control
They're going to be
it.
exposed to a lot of different inputs. It's not just going to be your input. And also you as a parent have a different kind of input. But I don't know, that meant a lot to me to hear. Is to just be like, totally. Yeah. They're going to hear a lot of shit. Sometimes it's going to be from crazy people. Sometimes it's going to be from family members. Sometimes it's going to be from crazy family members. Sometimes you're going to agree with it and sometimes not. But like, yeah, your kid's going to, you're not going to like, the goal is not to become the Kremlin and like control all information that they have access to. Some information, but yeah, there's going to be a mix in there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I think that's the whole point, going back to like you and Justin's relationship, is just like you just give them the freedom to choose no matter what. So hopefully, like, what I want most for any future kids I might have is that they don't feel bogged down the way that I did by religion or by a belief system. That's all I could ever hope for. They can be exposed to as many of these things as they like. They can make their own choices about what they believe, but I just don't want it to harm them.
Yeah, that sounds great. I feel really excited about providing my kids, hopefully, with an example of how people can have different beliefs and still treat each other really well. Yeah. And like, you know how fucking rare that example is?
Oh, it's so hard.
Do you know how few religions or atheists can live that out today?
Especially in this time.
In this economy.
In this year of our Lord.
That's something I think the world needs more than anything. Wow, I'm Jesus. And I am so excited to give them, like, that I feel like if we can successfully live that out, which I think we can, because we already have to fucking do it all the time. Yeah. It's like, you know, bridge the gap between very different beliefs and still loving each other and seeing each other and hearing each other and not abandoning ourselves. Like, it takes a lot of work.
It does.
And you can do it. Yeah. That I feel so excited to share that with a kid.
I know. I think that we've really done the hard stuff.
Why are we angels and saints?
We've done the hard stuff, and we'll hopefully make it easier for them.
Before, she's a prince. Okay, somebody wants to hear your hot take on Jennifer Coolidge.
Why?
That's not up to you to ask. What's your hot take?
Iconic.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing hot to say. I think it's pretty... She's iconic.
She's great.
She's great. She's just great.
What's the prob?
Somebody wrote, gotta have Abby's take on swig.
Swig. Do you know what swig is?
No, of course I don't.
It is a... Wait, yes, you do. You read my essay about it. It's the soda shop. The soda shop that you can put in different like concoctions of like creams or syrups.
Oh, is this a Utah thing?
Yeah, or fruit purees. It's kind of...
Swig is a chain soda shop?
Yeah. Then there's a couple different...
I forgot it was called Swig.
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Okay, what's your hot take, bitch?
My hot take is not for me. Okay. Do we need to go into further detail?
No.
Okay.
Did you say you have a question for me?
I just wrote down a few things I want you to give me rapid fire hot takes on. Just going through a list of things that popped into my head, okay?
Okay, so how much can I answer? How much can I say?
I say up to 5 words.
Okay.
Luke Skywalker.
Hot, but not that hot.
Ooh. I was hoping you were going to say whiny little bitch because that's my take. Okay. Bagels.
Perfectly fine.
Okay. I like that. Golden doodles.
Oversaturated, but I get it.
Really? I think their legs are scary.
What do you mean?
They have long legs.
Oh.
Have you seen a golden doodle's legs?
Okay.
We got to look up a picture.
Yeah, but they are like really sweet. Like, I get why they've become so popular.
Fine.
They're sweet little idiots.
They're uncanny to me.
Okay.
The phrase, why is no one talking about this?
Hate it.
Great.
Hate. I hate all the copy and paste social media phrases.
Okay.
All of them.
Great. Same.
I hate them. It's like a Hallmark card. You know what it is? Okay, I'm going to keep talking.
Do it.
You know what it fucking is? Is that nobody knows how to just let yourself be uninteresting for a moment. You know, people have to like come up with something ironic and sassy to say online all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people aren't that interesting. And so they like do like rent a personality, and they, you know, copy and paste one of these like sayings they've heard in the zeitgeist, like, why is nobody talking about this? Or let's normalize, or she ate with that, or like, you know. And back in the 90s, those would have just been like, you know, people commenting on a forum and saying something boring like that was cool, but nobody can just say like that was cool anymore. Or like I have a question. They have to like try and be interesting, but they're not. And so they use, it's like getting a Hallmark card.
I agree.
I hate it.
Yeah, I purposely like can never say any of these phrases. I won't allow myself.
I know. I'm a bitch.
Yeah.
I'm a bitch.
No, me too.
But I don't like it.
I don't like it.
She ate with that. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
What do you mean?
Yeah, you don't mean anything. You don't even know what you mean. All you know is that you have nothing else to say.
And most of
it's okay to have nothing to say.
Most of these phrases are coming from teenagers. They always, like when you were talking about,
they are.
When you were talking about NPCs, I've known about that phrase for a really long time.
Children,
because Jake is a teacher at a high school.
Yeah,
and they've been saying NPC for at least a year.
Yeah,
maybe longer.
Was that a short hot take?
No. Okay. All right. Nicole Kidman's AMC teaser.
Oh, I feel fine about it. I don't have a hot take.
Really? Nothing?
No, whatever. Just let people work. Whatever. Let them work.
Okay.
Why? What are people saying?
I don't know what people are saying.
Do you have a hot take?
I think it's crazy.
Why is it crazy? This is an AMC movie trailer that Nicole Kidman is in.
No. It's that thing that it shows before every movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a trailer in the AMC. That's what I said.
Where she's like talking about how movies are great.
She's just in a movie theater alone eating popcorn. Yeah. She's like, movies are great.
Yeah, she's like, because here they are.
Yeah, it means she says nothing, basically.
Yeah.
What's there to complain about?
I don't know, I'm just wondering what you think. Okay. I told you these are random.
I do think it's weird that they got her for that.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like if Meryl Streep was in that. It feels equally surprising to me.
Yeah.
But whatever, girls gotta eat.
Meryl Streep was in SNL's 50th.
I didn't watch it.
She did a bad job. I'm gonna say it.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
I like it too.
I love just having healthy examples of people failing. We need more of that.
She's got to do bad at something.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
She's very successful otherwise. Okay. Right. Secretary desks.
Like in theory, don't own.
Okay. All
right.
I love that.
That's pretty good. You thought I couldn't count to 5.
I really
did. You?
Yeah, I was like, oh, she only has 4 fingers. It's hard.
Oh.
Okay. Someone asking me about my quote unquote big feelings.
Oh, I think that's lull. I think that's lull. So what happened is a listener wrote in one of the listener submissions for Abby. Somebody just wrote with no context that either of us understand. Somebody just wrote in, "What you doing with all those big feelings?" And it made me laugh so hard. And I assumed this was a reference to something Abby wrote about, or an article, or a Substack. Neither of us have any idea what this means.
I have no idea.
So in that, knowing that you have no idea what this means either, answer the question: what you doing with all those big feelings? I thought it made sense because you do have a lot of big feelings.
Could they just tell by like, maybe we should figure out who it is. Cause what if it's like one of my friends or something? Anyway, what would I say about it? I'd say I write them down.
You write them down?
And I send them on out.
You didn't tell us what your best marriage advice is.
I don't know if
Okay, I'll ask a more specific question. Somebody else, that's a hard question, but somebody else wrote in and asked, how do you navigate arguments or heated moments with your partner, such as when you're angry or disappointed at them or something?
Yeah.
You just turn him over onto his tummy and spank him till he cries for help.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've talked about this a little bit before. I don't know if I do the right thing, but I just kind of like say what I'm feeling.
That's fucked
when
up.
I'm feeling
so fucked up.
And
pervert.
Yeah, it's really funny because sometimes I'll like be talking to friends and they tell me something crazy going on in their relationship, and I'm always just like, well, what did they do when you told them about it? And they're like, oh, I haven't. I'm like, why?
Yeah, I think you're really good. You seem to be really good at just saying things.
But you know when you watch a rom-com and like everything goes bad because nobody's communicating?
It's horrible. That's why I can't watch them. Yeah.
Like just communicate, I guess. Like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I can go too far where like sometimes I am maybe speaking out loud anxieties that like don't need to be on his mind, if that makes sense. So I've worked hard to make sure that like the battle I'm fighting is worth fighting.
Yeah.
But
so you'll be like, I'm really fucking angry.
Yeah.
You wouldn't curse. You wouldn't curse.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll just be like, I'm really angry.
Yeah. I'll just be like, okay. Yeah. Usually we'll be sitting down and I'll say something like, okay, this has been on my mind. Like, are you in a place where I can tell you something that's been on my mind? And if he says no, actually he really doesn't say no.
Yeah, if you say no, it's
He's
like,
just,
okay, well, it's gonna be an awkward night then. Never mind.
But I think it's kind of nice because it lets him know like, okay, something is coming.
I do think it's nice to be like, I want to talk about something that's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Or I want to talk about something that's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it's weird how that tiny heads up lets someone show up as a better version of themselves. They're like, oh, instead of just like getting blown over by the wave of something that's uncomfortable or hard to talk about, they get to be like, this is going to be hard to talk about. Okay, let's listen. It's so different.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think over the years I like learned how to just do like iMessages pretty solely, right? Like,
what do you mean? Oh, speaking, I thought you were talking about texting.
Oh, no.
Okay, speaking from I feel.
Yeah, like just instead of like, you do this and it really bothers me. Because I feel like sometimes like if you're in the right mood, you're really like crave that like confrontation where you can be like, you're doing it wrong, just to like get a fight, you know? But yeah, over the years that's obviously faded away. I was young at a time, but I like, yeah. So I think that's like the best advice I can give is just talking about how you feel about a situation rather than like what they've done to make you feel that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have a great example.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of examples.
I will say one time recently, without getting into specifics, he told me, he was like, okay, we're going to do this thing, but like, we're not going to like freak out if it doesn't happen. Like something kind of big, you know? And I was just like, yeah, chill. And then like, as time went on, I was kind of like, wait, like I'm kind of freaking out, but I feel like I'm not allowed to freak out because we like agreed we weren't going to freak out. You know what I mean? And so I had to sit down with him and be like, okay, I'm just going to bring this up. Like when you said that, I kind of felt like this pressure to keep it all to myself. And that's actually not that healthy for me because it really messes with my mind and I need to be able to say it out loud. It's okay if I can't say it to you, but I guess I just want you to know that like I will be freaking out. And like, if you don't want that to involve you, I guess that's fine. But like, I would rather be in this together, basically. And so, yeah, does that make any sense? I know it's not that specific.
No, totally. It's like you just say, sometimes it's just like, just saying the whole truth. Like, I feel this and I feel bad about saying that I feel that way, but I also feel like I want to tell you that I feel that way. And I'm not really sure what I'm asking for you to do. And I don't really have like a different solution. It's like, I think sometimes people think if they're going to have a tough conversation, they need to come to the table with like a full directive.
Yeah.
This is what I feel. This is what's wrong. This is how we need to fix it. And this is what I want you to do. And you really don't. Sometimes you're just like, I feel this. I feel bad about it. I feel a little confused about it. I'm not really sure what the solution is. Like, I heard someone describe it before as like, tough conversations or conflict even. It's more about like, we're writing a draft together.
Yeah.
I have like part of the draft, but I actually need you to weigh in before we can finalize this thing. And just taking that pressure off of like, you don't have to know where this conversation is going. You don't actually have to know what the takeaway is or what the conclusion is. It might really just be saying like, I feel anxious, but I feel like I'm not supposed to feel anxious. I actually don't even know if I'm supposed to be bringing that to you. Like, I don't know if you want to be involved or like if you should be involved or like what that actually means or like maybe you already knew I feel this way. Like, you can just say all of it. Just say everything that's true. You don't have to know where it's going. You don't have to have like an action item at the end of it.
Yeah.
You write the draft together.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think part of the reason I brought that up is because he's a little more reserved and doesn't love to like voice anxieties as much as I do. Mm-hmm. And so
you love it.
Part of me was just like, I feel like you're asking me to like operate under the way that you operate. Mm-hmm. And I can't do that. Yeah. I feel like we've actually done better in conflict over the past few years. And he's actually done a ton of like actions to prove that he's listening lately. So knock on wood. I feel like we've been in like a really good flow.
You guys been through a lot. I think it means so much what you said about like going through something hard, because going through something hard will happen to every couple. Yeah. Eventually. Mm-hmm. I think you kind of want to find someone who you like their personality and you like how they live day to day when stuff is good. But I think you also really want to appreciate the way someone moves through conflict. Yeah. I think I've loved a lot of people before who love their personality, love day to day, love how we got along, but the way they dealt through conflict was basically like unworkable. Mm-hmm. And you will have conflict, and so you need someone who like has a complementary way of working through conflict. I feel like that's maybe almost more important than like, do you have a personality match? Yeah. And if you can't have conflict together, then you'll certainly end.
Yeah, it will be very hard to work through.
Yeah. So you guys like have been tested in that way, then you got to be very intentional. I remember one of the first things you shared with me, this is early on when you and I were first friends, and you shared with me how you were like, I just asked Jake the other day, like, what does marriage mean to us now? If we're choosing this marriage as adults and we first entered the marriage by force when we were children, what does marriage mean to us now? And when you first said that, I was like, oh shit, they gonna get divorced. But what I learned is that you were actually just being like, let's be intentional about this. It's a real question. Yeah. And I feel like since then, I've just learned that your guys' relationship is even stronger. And there's also no shame in getting divorced. I think if you need to separate in order to have your adult life, and the only thing that was keeping you together was enforced religion, then it sounds like you should really celebrate being able to choose your own separate ways. Yeah. But I don't know. I just thought it was like amazing that you were able to ask that question, because whether people have left the church recently or not, I think so many couples probably never asked themselves that. After a couple of years of being married, what does marriage mean to us now? Yeah. What does this commitment mean to us now?
It's nice to check in.
I thought that was really wise.
I feel like you have kind of done that.
Tell me more about myself.
I feel like you and Justin, just what you were talking about earlier with like religion, with other hard stuff, you've had to talk through some hard stuff too, and you've just like made it through because you care about each other. And
I love how we have conflict together. Like it genuinely has made me feel so confident about us, because like I think, we both intend to spend a life together, and that intention and that confidence and excitement about spending a life together is not based on having never been through anything hard together. It's based on the fact that like we did have things to figure out, things like different religions and other differences or conflicts that you could easily not encounter early on in a relationship, but we did. Yeah. And it was hard to figure out, and we got to the other side of it, and it just emboldened me to feel like, oh, like it doesn't really matter what's thrown at us. We can like get through things even if we disagree, or even if we want, have different beliefs, or we can just do it respectfully and both be in it and care and not abandon the other. And like, it just felt like, it just left me feeling like, oh, we can do anything.
Yeah. I feel like being afraid of conflict is the conflict.
Because it's going to come up.
Yeah. So it's like,
it's nice to know that we can do it together.
Yeah. Why ignore it for so long when you can just like nip it in the bud and move on?
Nip it in the freaking nip.
Like,
you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. really get it.
No, I think we've been talking for 1,000 hours.
I was just thinking about how long it's going to take.
Sucks for you, dog, because you got to edit this.
Jess, will you edit this one?
No, I'm going to give it to you instead.
All right, I'll do it.
Saint Abigail, Prince of Peace. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me, and sorry I yapped for so long.
No, everything you say is gold. Is really nice. Yeah.
I think that about you.
Don't just copy my compliment.
Okay, everything you say is like silver.
No, say an original compliment.
Okay.
This is what we do when we hang out. I demand compliments.
I think I just admire you because you've been through a lot of shit and you are still going through a lot of shit in random parts of your life, and you still show up to be such a kind friend, and you're always so zoned in on what we're talking about even when you have so much shit going on in the background. I think that's really a very nice trait. And I just want you to know, I am aware that you have so much going on and you still let me sit here and yap at you about trivial things.
Oh.
We do talk about her stuff too, just so everybody knows, but she's very good at just hanging through it all.
That was really meaningful.
Oh,
that was really nice.
I'm so glad.
Wow, I don't think of myself that way at all. I feel like I'm always so absent.
No.
I was literally just beating myself up today for even texting girlfriends about, shit I was down about. I was like, what is wrong with you?
No, that's why the friend group is there. That's the level that you've been searching for.
I know.
It's the friends that you can just tell
I was like,
what's
is this
happening
right?
in your life.
I was like, is this right for me to do?
No, that's it. That's the level I'm always looking for, where we're just clued in on each other's minute details of our lives.
So
that's real friendship, I think.
Yeah, that was really meaningful to hear you say. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I love you.
I love you too. Do you feel like you got enough compliments for me, or do you want another one?
I think you went above and beyond. I was not prepared for that.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like I did a lot for you.
You really did. You basically interviewed me like you're Oprah and I'm some rando.
I love hearing you talk. I think that's why we're friends.
Oh.
I really admire you, interpersonally especially. Yeah. Everything I said about you and your marriage, I really learned from you. I think that's something I require in my deepest friends. I was thinking about this recently, is like there's always, with all like my dearest friends, there's at least one major category where it's like I really take notes from you.
Agreed. I take notes on your stuff all the time. I'm always thinking about it.
Okay, that's enough compliments. Take us out to the outro.
Me?
Yeah!
Wow, thanks for being here. Wow. Thanks for being here and listening to us wax poetic about everything going on in our sweet little lives. We love you. What do you want them to do this week?
Write a review about Sweet Prince Professor Abigail.
Yeah, I guess we'll link my stuff.
We're going to link all Abigail's, her Substack, if you want to keep up with her writings. She also talks a lot about fashion and her relationship to that. So there's stuff that cultural commentary, ex-Mormon commentary, like she just touches on a lot of stuff. We're going to link some of her writing.
Yeah, that's probably where I'm most active. You can follow me on Instagram, but nothing much is happening.
We're going to share the podcast that she wrote and or produced.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, girl,
sure.
You've done some shit.
Yeah, follow that. Cool. Yeah, thanks for being here, and it was so fun.
I love you.
I love you too. Hello, my name is Abi.
Hello, her name is Prince.